Hi guys, so last time we looked at day 6, which rounds off all the main boy groups in JYP, so I think it's time to look at the main girl group of JYP and the main girl group of the whole of South Korea. Twice. Let's go. So Twice are an interesting group. They're vocally not like incredible all the way through. However, when I went in and I researched everybody, everyone had a really similar ability and a lot of the singers were pretty decent, pretty strong. And a lot of them have a similar technique and sing in a kind of similar way. Disclaimer, I wasn't quite as familiar with Twice's voices as I should have been going in. I knew their songs, knew about them and kind of knew the members or learned the members, but their voices didn't really sound all distinct to me until I really started to look into them. So I do think I've got the right order based on a few different factors. But obviously, your order may vary, as there's a lot of debate online as kind of the middle places as to where they all sit. So without further ado, let's look at the voices of Twice and the voices of the main girl group. Let's have a look. So this is the person I had the easiest time placing. For me, Momo technically is the weakest in Twice. I think she has potential, but let's have a look at what makes her voice the way it is. So I'm just going to put it out there right now. I've seen a lot of stuff online about her using a fake voice that JYP is making her use. Now, there's a lot of videos that cover that topic. I don't really want to go into it because I don't really fully have an informed opinion on it. I don't really know. I haven't really listened to Twice long enough to know if she's using a fake voice, a fictional voice, or a voice that isn't her own. All I know is that when she sings during Twice's music, her technique leaves a lot to be desired. As worst singers in groups go, she's pretty good. She can stay on pitch relatively well. Her voice has a little bit about it, a bit of character. The main issue is she sings with the classic kind of K-pop nasal placement, and unlike some of the other people in the group, she doesn't have the ability to move up into a mix at all, or really stay on pitch in these higher keys. Her voice clearly is a little bit lower than the key of Twice's music would suggest, so she has a hard time staying on pitch sometimes. Her nasal placement gets her stuck, and she doesn't really have much of a mix to go into. She doesn't really utilise a lot of head voice or have a particularly good foundation of chest voice. So Momo's voice to me sounds like it has potential to be better. If it was to be sang in a lower key, it would suit her voice more and she'd be able to do more with it. But while she's singing this higher key of Twice, she's using more nasal placement, and it's not a nasal placement that gives it a nice relaxing freedom or flexibility. It's a nasal placement that gets it stuck and makes it sound really internalized and not too strong and not too robust. So yeah, Momo, while she does have the weakest voice in the group, it's not like by far, and she isn't terrible. She has potential to be better should her voice be used in ways that would suit more. But for now, she's the weakest singer in the group due to the nasal placement that she implements. Okay, so I ummed and ahed over the positions for 6, 7, 8 for quite some time. I decided in the end that Sana did have the weakest voice of the three based on a few different factors, but her voice is pretty decent still. Let's have a look. Okay, so the main thing that puts Sana this low is she uses a very similar technique to Momo. While Momo doesn't sound as comfortable in this higher key because her voice is, as I say, a little bit lower placed naturally, Sana's voice is naturally very light, it's very youthful, and it's very bright. That means when she's singing Twice's music, the key actually suits her voice quite a lot, and she gets a lot of lines, transitional lines, nothing really in the hard echelon of music. She doesn't sing any really difficult vocal parts because she doesn't really have much of a mix or much of a power voice. Her voice is soft, it's light, it's delicate, but it's also quite nasally as well. It's not as nasally as Momo's, there is space for it to move into. She has utilised on occasion a slightly more robust sound above and a slightly higher key that she can get into. It's not a really developed mix, it's not particularly strong, it doesn't have much chord closure. She sings quite light. It's not super breathy, but it's really, really fragile and really brittle. So the sound to me doesn't sound like it has a lot of space to go into power-wise. She can't beef it up massively. But a tone is pleasant, albeit a little bit nasal. It's not a tone that I adore by any means, but it's pretty decent. The technique is so-so. It's better than Momo's because, as I say, she has an easy time getting there, and her voice naturally sits in that key a little bit more due to the lighter nature of it, and the fact her vocal cords are automatically a little bit lighter and more stretched out. So yeah, Sana's voice is kind of your classic female K-pop singers. It's okay, it's light, it's not bad. It hasn't got a great deal of agility, it hasn't got a great deal of range or projection, but it's pleasant enough, and it can do a lot of parts in Twice's music. I just feel as though of the actual singers in the group, she has kind of the weakest voice, but it's still pretty decent. Okay, next up is the lead rapper Dahyun with a very underrated voice. Most people seem to put her second last, and I respectfully disagree, and this is why. Okay, again, Dahyun's voice isn't exceptional. There isn't a huge amount to it. Firstly, the negative. The main negative is because it's so youthful and kind of light, it doesn't sound, again, very big or very powerful. She seems to lack in projection. A lot of Twice seem to have this issue because of the way their music is written. It's so high. A lot of them don't have power voices. They sing a really light, kind of bright coordination to get there. They lighten their vocal tone, they put it closer towards their head, makes the voice not that robust. Dahyun absolutely does this as well, and her voice has a bit of a brittle nasal quality as well. Not to the same level as Sana and Momo, there's more of a chord closure there, but it is still nasal-ish. Okay, so the main positives is, firstly, it's really youthful and has a lot of character. I think Dahyun's voice, when I first heard it, was really sweet, and it caught me off guard, because obviously she kind of has more of the, not gritty per se, but the kind of more badass rap tones, if you like, in Twice's music. But her voice is really sweet, it's really nice. It's capable of singing light phrases, kind of high in the mix, and it sounds lovely, it sounds really consistent and really good. Her voice also has an ability to get into her head voice more than the two below her. She doesn't do it a whole lot, but I've seen she has ability to navigate a passaggio, get into a falsetto or a kind of lighter head voice, and do really pretty angelic high notes that sound really nice. And again, for a rapper that doesn't need to necessarily have this avenue to her voice, she does, and she gets loads of lines because she can sing in this soft, nice way. As well as that, when I was kind of researching, she has a pretty developed lower register as well. Like, nothing crazy, super great or anything, and she doesn't have a huge amount of power with it, but she can close her chords a little bit more, get down to a low register. Obviously, for a female voice, it's not going to be the same as a male voice. It's somewhere in the third octave, somewhere in the high third octave, because they all do have soprano voices pretty much. But she has that avenue to her voice, and it sounds really good, be it in a rap style or when she sings down there a little bit lower, and she sounds more comfortable here than most of the people. So I guess while her voice isn't exceptional, it's not hugely robust, doesn't have much projection or much in the way of range, it is more versatile than Momo and Sana's. It has more to it, it's slightly less nasal, and has a kind of more universally applicable coordination. So I think Dahyun has a decent voice. Again, it's not amazing by any means, but she's got a nice, sweet, pleasant singing style with a coordination and a technique that is actually pretty consistent and can do a few varied things. Okay, so Chewy has by far the most improved voice that I've heard. When I was doing the research, from what her voice used to be right at the start to what it is now, massive change. And also, she isn't utilised the way that I would like, but I'll explain what I mean in a second. so Chewy's voice is really interesting. So when she's singing in the style of Twice's music, again with this higher placement, she doesn't sound super comfortable. She sounds a little bit shaky, and her voice doesn't want to be up there. It doesn't want to be that light all the time. It has that avenue to it, like she does light covers, and it sounds lovely, it sounds sweet, it sounds angelic, it has the classic kind of soprano style to it. As I say, underneath it, it doesn't sound mega supported or mega comfortable, but her voice does sound nice here. She gets into a falsetto, just the same way that Dahyun does, and it sounds nice, it sounds pleasant. However, what makes her voice particularly good is when she lowers the key a half step and a little bit, she actually has not a deeper necessarily, but a bit of a bigger tone. Of all the people I've mentioned so far, she has by far the best projection, can sing in by far the most genres and more styles. And her voice kind of is universally really good. As I say, her voice has a little bit more to it in depth. She seems to have more of a mezzo-soprano tone rather than a soprano tone. Not a low one by any means, but it sounds a little bit more comfortable a half step down. And when she sings in this way, her voice sounds resonant, it sounds powerful. Not super belty or super powerful or anything, but it's got by far the most projection and the most chord closure, and she sounds by far the most comfortable beefing her sound up a little bit. As well as that, she has the avenue where it's softer and lighter, and it sounds really good. So basically, she has Dahyun's voice, but also a key below and a more robust sound. So I think her technique is universally really good. It's really consistent. She can do an awful lot with it, and her voice sounds good, be it in a slightly higher key, even if it is a little bit shaky, or in a slightly lower key where her voice really shines, and she should get more lines doing that particular sound. So yeah, I think Chewy's voice is massively improved from what it used to be. It's way more consistent, and it sounds really good. And of the singers I've mentioned so far, she has the most unique tone, most varied tone, and the best singer voice in my personal opinion. For me, Mina was the one that was the most difficult to place. People seem to either place her 4th or 5th, or like 6th or 7th. I think 5th is the right place for her ability. She has a really consistent voice. Let's have a look. Mina seems to be the person outside of the top 3 who has the most reliable voice in terms of what she knows how to do with it. She has avenues to her voice, absolutely, and it's not hugely varied, but the instrument that she has, she knows that she has, and she has the most comfortable time staying within that parameter. So her voice isn't hugely varied, and it's not massively unique. I kind of had a hard time placing it for a while. She doesn't have the most, varied, consistent, unique tone, but what she has is a voice that works very well where it works. So her voice is kind of another light sitting voice. However, she's the one that has the most individuality within it because she knows exactly what she can do with it. Yes, she can stay light and not project too much. Her voice doesn't have a lot of projection, again, like classic Twice. She sings this higher key without much robust connection. But her voice is light, it's bright, it sounds incredibly comfortable where it is, and it knows exactly what to do when it's there. It also has the ability to move into a head voice nice and smoothly. Her passage and navigation is really solid, and her voice sounds really comfortable in these higher keys. Again, it's not massively powerful, not massively robust, and doesn't have much chest closure to it, but it sounds like it's where it's meant to be. It's the voice that sounds like it's the most practiced, and it's the one that kind of sounds exactly right. It's not massively unique, as I say. It's kind of hard to pick out of a crowd, and I don't really know what else to say on Mina's voice. It's just a voice that is really good, and it's a classic K-pop idol voice. It's solid, it's technically proficient, it's nice, it has a few avenues to work with. It's not massively versatile, but it has a more consistent technique than the people I've mentioned so far. While they might have a few more things they can do, what Mina can do with her voice, she can do with her voice all the time, and consistently and fantastically. So yeah, it's a classic idol voice, sounds really good, has a key it works really well in, can move into a few different avenues, doesn't project hugely well, and doesn't have a huge amount of character to it, but it's a good, consistent, reliable tone. Chaeyoung's voice caught me off guard by far the most. What is it with K-pop idol groups and having rappers that are really, really good at singing? Chaeyoung's voice is really interesting and has two main modes it works really well in. But we'll get into that. Let's have a look.
Never wanted anything so much that I'm drowning your love and I feel your ring.
Okay, so Chaeyoung's voice, outside of the main three singers again that I want to get into later, has by far the best passage and navigation. So when she's in light sweet mode, which of course she has to be because Twice's music in this really sugary high sweet key a lot of the time, her voice sounds really natural here. It sounds bright. It's not as light as the rest of the guys, it's got a bit more of a robust sound to it. So it's more of a bright instrument. It's higher sitting, it's blaring, it sounds really strong and really good. Doesn't have a mega mix or huge power vocals or much of a higher avenue to get into. However, when she's flipping between her higher chest voice or kind of a head dominant mix into her head voice, the transition is by far the smoothest in the group. Sounds beautiful, sounds really good. And I think that area of her voice is really captivating and really nice. And of all the people I've mentioned so far, her technique in that area is the most sound. As well as that, she has the most projection here, by far, of the people I mentioned so far. She can kind of scoop into a bit of a higher mix, which has way more volume than everybody else and has more of a chord closure to it. So while everyone else is kind of staying in this light, brightish, nasally kind of airy placement and sounds sweet and beautiful, Chaeyoung can do that, but she can also beef it up and belt a bit as well. Particularly on the end of phrases as kind of an offset, she adds more of a chord closure and hits them bigger and more powerful. So basically her voice is really unique and interesting, it's versatile, has two avenues it works really well in, has a lot of power, has a lot of projection, and has beautiful technique and passage and navigation. And for a main rapper, her voice is absolutely stunning, and I'm not surprised she gets lots of lines, or at least she should get more singing lines, if not, because she's one of the strongest singers in Twice, particularly outside of the main three people. So yeah, Chaeyoung, fantastic vocalist, really good. Okay, so I think it's kind of undisputed as to who Twice's three best singers are. Just people kind of order 2 and 3 in a few different ways. So, to me, Nayeon has the perfect idol girl group singer voice. What exactly do I mean by that? I'll explain in a second, but let's have a look at what she can do. Alright, so Nayeon has, again, Twice's classic hyacinth soprano voice. It's not massively powerful, as always, it's kind of light and kind of bright, as always. The thing that makes her a little bit different is firstly, she's very stable. She kind of sounds very relaxed and comfortable in this higher key, where some of the other people are going overly light or overly loud. She sounds absolutely right at home here, so her kind of tessitura is in Twice's key. It sounds amazing, it's why she's getting so many lines. She sings a lot of the choruses, a lot of the opening lines, because she sounds very stable here and very relaxed here and sounds really, really, really good. The lighter sitting way she implements her technique with the more breath sounds great. When she beefs it up a little bit, she sounds great. Adds a little bit of nasality, that works really well as well. It doesn't get stuck, it has room to go into, it sounds really nice. She has a little bit of a mix. It's not a hugely powerful mix, but she has a bit of a belt she can get into, but she has the best time doing most of the high notes. Like, they're quite light and quite fragile and kind of head voice dominant, but she's the one that kind of gets up into the 5th octave the most, outside of number 1 probably. But everybody else doesn't have the ability up in these higher keys that she does. She sounds comfortable where everyone else sounds comfortable, if not more so. Sounds very varied, has a a very light delivery, a slightly more robust delivery, a bit of a nasal delivery, sounds really good. And then up above it, in her head voice, has the ability to hit the higher notes of Twice's music. So yeah, Nayeon's voice is really consistent, really reliable, really pleasant, really nice, and exactly what you want from an idol lead vocalist. I just think that she kind of lacks some of the power vocals of the two coming up and a bit of character of the two coming up. But yeah, she's a really, really, really good singer, I have no doubt of that. So here's my favourite voice in Twice. Jeongyeon is massively underappreciated, is given nowhere near enough lines by JYP. I think I know why, but I'll get into that in a second, but her voice is awesome and it should be appreciated way more. Let's have a look. So, I think it's pretty clear that JYP really likes a soprano voice. Everyone in Twice, the way the songs are written is kind of forced or can naturally sing in this really, really, really high key. He writes everything, or the writers write everything in this high key. Jeongyeon's voice isn't a soprano voice. She has a mezzo-soprano voice, and a really, really good one. The reason she doesn't get many lines that I can fathom is because her voice doesn't sound great in this key. When she kind of forces herself to go up into this kind of higher soprano place, her voice sounds fine, it sounds just as good as everybody else's, it's decent, but it doesn't have the character her voice has. It doesn't allow her to utilise all the things that make her voice so wonderful. Because she's kind of being forced to sing in an overly nasal or overly loud place because her voice is richer, it's bigger, it can't get there as easily in this lighter tone, therefore JYP doesn't like the sound of it as much and doesn't utilise it much. If he wrote a few songs lower in key, for a mezzo-soprano voice, Jeongyeon's voice would absolutely shine and destroy everybody else's. Her voice is thick, it's rich, it's powerful, it's got a lot of weight that it can bring up because it's a bit thicker, a bit darker. It has more of a robust sound as she goes up. Yes, that can result in things being yelly, but that's because she's singing in a soprano key. And if you have a low voice singing in a higher key, you can do it, but you've got to make adjustments. If she's singing where she's natural, her voice, as I say, sounds thicker, bigger, it's belty, it's powerful, it sounds almost jazzy a little bit, it can do loads of different genres, it sounds really good, the technique is fantastic, the sound's really open, and I'm just really annoyed that she doesn't get to sing in her natural key because her voice is wonderful, and she has, as I say, my favourite voice in Twice. It's not objectively the best, it's second in terms of power, second in terms of technique probably, but she blows everybody else that I've mentioned so far out of the water technically, in my opinion, and her power vocals are really good, her robust sound's really good, she's really, really unique in a group full of sopranos, all, in my opinion, kind of sound the same a little bit. Her voice, you can pick out the crowd straight away, and when I first heard Twice, I went, oh, that one's different, she's got a good voice, straight away. Really like her tone, really like her style, and the mezzo-soprano voice sounds really wonderful. She just needs to be utilised more because the pipes that she has are really, really, really good. Okay, so undisputedly number one is Jihyo. Now, I've seen a lot of people online say that for a main vocalist, she's kind of average. And while, yeah, maybe that is true, I still think she has a really, really solid voice. And of the voices in Twice, she has by far the strongest and the most to offer. So let's have a look at it. Okay, so what makes Jihyo's voice really good? Firstly, she's a good soprano. That means the key of Twice's music suits her voice perfectly. She tends to only really sing the choruses and the bridges because they're the most difficult and challenging vocal parts, and she's pretty much the only person that can do most of them because they require a powerful delivery and a high delivery. She's the only person that has both of these down to abundance. People like Chewie and Jeongyeon can sing powerful, but it's a little bit lower because they're kind of mezzo soprano tones. Jihyo can sing this robust and this chest dominant and this strong in these higher keys. She has a soprano belter voice. Yes, it's not like gonna be crazy like a soloist like Sohyang or anything like that, but as an idol girl group goes and a main vocalist, she's really good. She's really powerful, has a really strong belty delivery. It sounds fantastic. Along with the fact that she's the only one who has really good power vocals, really, particularly in the key that Twice's music is written in, she also has an upper extended mix. She has the main vocalist mix, as I'm now going to coin it, and which is basically where everyone else can kind of sing and belt and sound good. The people who are the main vocalists have this switch they can go into where they can lighten their tone, yet sing connected, full, powerful belts in their higher octave, the fifth octave. And she's utilised this on many occasions, and she's the only person in Twice that can get in this area. So her voice is powerful. It's got a mix. It's decent, it's falsetto, it's emotive, it's captivating, it's really technically proficient, it's consistent and it's reliable. Yes, sometimes she can come in a little bit hoarse because she's being forced to do all of the high notes because she's the only one that really can. But her voice is good. It's really nice and it's a really strong main vocalist voice. Yes, it's not the most amazing main vocalist voice I've ever heard in my life, but she's solid, she's good, and Twice do really well, so people clearly like her voice quite a lot. And it's robust and powerful, and as I say, the upper mix makes it the best in the group, in my opinion. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I admittedly don't have the easiest time ranking girl groups. I don't hear the differences in their voice as well as I do with male groups, but I hope you enjoyed that and agreed to it somewhat. And next time we'll be looking at NCT 127. A lot of you guys have really been requesting that a lot, so I hope to see you there. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.